Good morning. Good morning, Fabian.
Good morning, Amadou.
How was your weekend?
Well, weekend was quite hectic.
You look dapper in the blue. I like it.
Thank you. And coincidentally, it's my favorite color and the
well,
favorite shade as well, royal blue.
I couldn't say as much. You know, my tribe is connected mostly to blue. You know, people make fun of us. We like blue, but I like blue. I actually like blue. All the shades of blue. You look good.
Thank you. And I find myself strange too, especially when they term it to be a masculine color. I just like it.
I know. But blue is cool. Blue is a very good color. I like blue. I like red as well. I like green, I should say.
Right.
But how was your weekend?
My weekend was hectic, but I managed to do a couple of things that, you know, were fun-filled as well.
I know.
It was quite a hectic weekend.
You have to relax and you know, refresh for the start of the weekend. The Sierra Leone Premier League started, and we won actually. Eastern Lions. We defeated Sierra Leone Police here at the National Stadium. But your team also did well. Musa Tombo scored one of the 2 goals. He defeated Eastern Tigers, who visited your team in Bo. You know, so you're still leading the table. Yeah,
of course. And Musa is enjoying himself. You know the power of love?
I know.
Yeah, so you see, in Bo Town, we're very strong people.
I know.
So once you land in Bo and we decide to take care of you,
to get out,
you're stuck.
I know.
You know, we
so
the
Musa
people
is enjoying football and love.
Yes.
And he's scoring goals as well. Unfortunately, he's still not been called yet to the national team. Hopefully, with the start of the league and his performance, the coach will see reason to call him to the national team. And that is what I think our Tumbo wants for him. You know, that is what she's been saying, that she wants to see Musa Tumbo progress, not only locally, but internationally
as well. He's trying, he's really trying. And I love the precedence he's setting for all the lover boys. You know, the haircut design. Like, you men, show your woman some love. Musa did by just, he wrote his girlfriend's name on his head, clearly, Hawa. Like, that's a good thing, you guys. You know, you should consider that
someone should do Phoebe. But, you know, I also watched the English Premier League. My player, Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm a Manchester fan, by the way. You know, he's back in the league, and you know, he scored 2 goals over the weekend. We're in top form, and you know, the way we're playing presently, I don't know what team is supporting the English Premier League, but we're definitely going to win the English Premier League. You know, we've got the players, we've got the squad.
I'm still open for transfer.
Oh, you should join. I know you like Ronaldo, so you should join Manchester United. But this is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television on Channel 33. We're broadcasting live from our studios in the hills of Freetown at Star Hill. We're on Radio on FM 11.7. We are streaming online at www.ayvnews.com. Also on our Facebook page, Africa Young Voices Media Empire. I am Amadou Lamwanaba. Good morning and welcome.
And I am Fabian Swiel. A pleasant morning to you. I hope you've prepared yourself a nice cup of tea or coffee as you join the conversation with us this morning. Yes, we value your input, so join the conversation on Facebook as well. But we'll take a summary of top stories from our primetime news and we'll come back to delve into the program proper.
Sierra Leone Judiciary visit private land at Belia Park community.
2006, it was a no-go area. I mean, this was all occupied by senior judges, magistrates, and officials of the judiciary, right from the gate up there. So all of these makeshift, you call it palm body, right? I've only just cropped in from 2010, gradually. And I have, in the past, made representation to the judiciary to say that there was an influx of persons illegally putting up these palm body structures. On a number of occasions, they've made appearances to get them out, but it has not really been put into practice. There was a time when these people who sell coal, they began to do this. I mean, you know, they begin in a very small way, and when it's not really a pressure on them to vacate, they expand and they expand. My view about it was that it's better not to allow them to come in than to attempt to throw them out after they had been established. So over the years, we've seen grocery shops, barber shops, garages, wholesale areas, and the presence in the area has again had its negative effect on the road, the volume of traffic on the road, and the perimeter fence has been broken into at different places.
Because we want to make sure, say, anybody where they live here, because you know, say this now is sanitized environment. For there, because when they come, you need for rest. From there, because when they come, you know, say he or she is protected. But you know that there, where they non-prostitute them all about the place. Now net, now then they fetch them boys, then they fetch with them girl them now net. So all that things they happen.
Budget Advocacy Network engages Gambia district stakeholders on auditing importance.
In fact, this is not the first time we are getting this shock since the first engagement ban came the other time. That gave us the honors, you know, to invite some MDs some time ago, at least to start the ball rolling, to get them accountable before the paramountcies. Because whatever revenue that is generated in districts, it is being generated on behalf of our people.
As a district, I think we are not happy as CSO. We are not happy at all with the outcome of the audit report and recommendations made. And because some of us, we are not happy seeing our district being left behind or less developed or failing to adhere to the recommendations, we want to assure the people of Gambia that our CSO will team up with other CSOs to ensure that the recommendations being implemented, and this time around council to work more and more to ensure that these issues have to be answered.
It's so surprising and disappointing from Gambia district. So as a civil society, and women to be specific, we are ready to put action plan, put things in place to implement.
And eminent women peace mediators Sierra Leone campaigns to promote political tolerance and peace.
Peace prevail in this country. We left with una na mama, una na sister, una na auntie, una na granny. When we walk in one country, I see where women they suffer during the war, whether they run away, that they need bambali picking them, that they touch them down to them at the head, that they run with the picking them. We are no come together. We preach peace. No preach peace to alone and no say peace important in the world. Peace is the best thing. Oh now no but peace. Una listen, what you will talk, una will understand what you will tell you. Una fed una say that for nothing. They're not a corner, say that they go make una minister. Una sit up, una do una work, una concentrate, una come together, like sisters, one and one, that is best in our life.
Welcome back. Those were some of the top stories in the news. In the show this morning, we are going to discuss the current state of Sierra Leone's economy from the parliamentary perspective.
And we shall also be discussing the current state of the country's road systems, poor condition, potholes and cracks in the road.
Our quote for today says, if we are able to stop begging for money, if we can take care of ourselves, then African leaders will have a voice that is forceful and will be listened to. And it comes from Julius Madabio, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. We'll now take a short message from our sponsor, Local Commercial Bank, and we'll be back with the discussion proper. Keep watching.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Here's how to avoid bringing COVID-19 into your homes. Wear long sleeves before leaving your house. Avoid wearing rings, bracelet or earrings, considering them as support for the virus. Limit public transportation as much as possible. Don't touch your face until you have washed your hands. At the supermarket, take a maximum safety distance of 1.50 meters. Use electronic payments. Arriving at home, take off your shoes. Clean your phone. Take off your clothes and wash them. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds and put all your shopping bags aside for 3 to 4 hours. Clean them and put them away.
All right, welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV. Now, don't forget to send your comments and questions on the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page and add your voice to the conversation.
Now, citizens have been raising concerns over the deplorable condition of the country's economy. Say things are hard. Sierra Leone's economy has been hurt by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to some reports, real GDP was estimated to contract by 2.07% in 2020 after growing by 5.04% in 2019. The government says the decline in exports has caused the current account deficit to widen to 15.06% of GDP from 13.05% in 2019. So this morning, to discuss the current state of the country's economy, the bread and butter issue from the parliamentary perspective, we have in our studios Honorable Ibrahim Taha Conte, who is a member of the Sierra Leone People's Party, and Honorable Abdul Karim Kamara. He is a member of Parliament and also representing the All People's Congress. Good morning, Honorable members of Parliament, and welcome to Wake Up Sierra Leone.
Good morning.
It is a pleasure having both of you.
Indeed, it's a pleasure coming again.
I'll start with you, Honorable Tawa. In a sentence, how will you describe the current state of the country's economy presently?
It's challenging, and it is not different from what obtains in other parts of the world being a global village now, and the fact that Sierra Leone is part of a global village, and when the global effects runs across the village, it affects every other inhabitant in the village. So in a sentence, I would say the current state of the economy in Sierra Leone, like every other country across the world, is challenging. But things to come back to normal as recoveries across the world shows that there are positive trajectory towards economic growth. And principally, we all know what underpins the economic growth of a country and what ingredient makes the economy works.
As members of Parliament, you have the responsibility to, pass laws that will help in addressing issues across the country, including the economy, to do your oversight functions as well and represent your people. How much has Parliament done, or members of Parliament, individuals like you, done to, help the government in addressing some of the economic issues, the things that affect the ordinary Sierra Leonean, the bread and butter issue?
Well, as Parliament and as a member of Parliament representing the ruling party, I tell you personally, I have done a lot of research and I've made a number of recommendations, and I'm sure most of those recommendations have been considered. Some were made at the highest level of government. And I will tell you one is the fact that I am pushing and I will keep pushing until we get to that point, wherein we would amend the recently amended Banking Act of 2019 so as to ensure that Section 25 of that Act is reviewed to ensure that we manage businesses in Sierra Leone, especially the banking sector. For a country to realize and to manage the foreign currency exchange imbalance and fluctuation in the markets, you need to have a system wherein the demand and the supply must outweigh the demand. Or in a situation where the demand is not high, you have to manage the supply end. And the only way to manage the supply end is to ensure that trade transactions in the banks are what big businesses, off-takers of foreign currency goes for. For now, the current system in the Banking Act, Section 25, gives the same class of priority to both contingent liability and direct exposure. That is to say, if you are going to open a letter of credit, and if the bank's single obligor limit is $2.5 million, and the letter of credit you want to open, it's $2 million, the bank can open that letter of credit for you. But it means the bank cannot service that customer beyond $500,000. So what I'm proposing and what I'm pushing for is to ensure that we have a system wherein you tear off liabilities and gives the bank the leverage to take a percentage share of the ticket value. For example, if you're doing $10 million guarantee for a company, for say a company like NP, you will take $100,000 that will be recorded in the bank's balance sheet. That will give NP the reasons to do more business in guarantees, in letters of credit, in standby letters of credit to their suppliers like ADAX and others, so that it will reduce the pressure on the foreign currency in the country. That's not to say, you look at our supply end. Our supply end comes from principally few sectors. One of those sectors are the international credit and multilateral guarantees and concessionary grants that we receive. Those monies come into our foreign accounts in America, and those monies are converted into local currency for transactional purposes in Sierra Leone. And in that instance, it will mean the government will have foreign currency at its possession to service that need. But that currency cannot meet the demand. So the other aspect is what has gone wrong with major supporters of the economy in terms of foreign currency, say the mining companies, the INGOs, the SOCFINs of this world. What has happened to them? In 2015, 2014, 2012, 2016, SOCFIN was importing foreign currency into this country, for example, yeah, because they were at the construction stage, they were at the management stage. Now they have started production. Now they are exporting. So it means now they are taking out foreign currency out of the system. And the third aspect is we have a lot of multilateral agreements that we've signed into that are supporting projects. For example, the Badia project at Fabe College. You will realize that because of the first aspect that I've mentioned, the liability aspect, the way Section 25 is designed to take everything as 100%, makes such a lucrative project with high foreign currency turnover. The foreign currency goes to places like Guinea, like Senegal, because they are issuing the guarantees, because our banks are not capable enough to do that. So all of that is telling on the economy. So on the parliamentary side, we've looked at that as members of parliament and as a member of the finance committee, and we're going to make more recommendations to the bank governor and to the cabinet subcommittee on the economy, so as to bring everybody together and we'll look at it and see how we can review it. Yes, I know there are Basel implications. They will tell you that we are on Basel 2, but currently we're on Basel 1, and Nigeria is on Basel 3. And in Nigeria, a bank that issues a particular contingent liability ticket, that bank takes 30% of the contingent value into its balance sheet. So let's mirror something around managing the economy that would ensure that we balance the trade imbalance that currently operates.
Would come to delve much into the detailed details of the economic problems we have. But let's take a few steps back, Abdul. There are citizens who say part of the problem is Parliament. Parliament does have a role to play, and it's not, vibrantly playing that role, and it's leading to the problem. Is that unreasonable?
Well, depending on where you stand at a particular point and the angle you look at it. For where I'm sitting, I see a blue studio. Somebody else watching from outside, he sees a white studio. To say Parliament has not done anything in itself will be too ambiguous. Also, we agree that we've not been given the full leverage to to do the things that the citizens expect of us. Some of the challenges we have now are not, they are not brand new problems that were brought into Sierra Leone. Way back in 2018, even before we had the 2019, before the corona, my brother will agree, we asked for the bank governor to come, the entire finance team, the people managing the economy of this country, to come to Parliament and talk to us. And let's know, as lawmakers, as the minds of the people, for us to understand what is going on, what are we entering into, and how do we solve some of these problems that are coming now. As I sit here, the bank governor, the Ministry of Finance, the Accountant General, none of those people managing the economy has ever come to Parliament to talk to us as the mouthpiece of the people. And you know what?
But the Parliament has the power as well to invite those individuals
that's where
to have that conversation.
And that's where I come in when people say Parliament has the powers. Parliament is an institution. Those who control those powers are not mere men like us. So we sit in the well and say, bring us the bank governor to explain to us what is happening with the economy. Bring us the bank governor to tell us where what is happening with the exchange rate. And somebody somewhere within the parliamentary corridors will tell you, okay, we'll bring it him. Do question, we write a question, you do this, you do that, and he doesn't come. What do you do?
Probably that's the question we can ask you, considering
no, that's what I'm asking.
You're in Parliament.
What do you do? You have not, the powers we have is, ordinary members of Parliament like us who take the daily challenge do not have the powers you summon. Even when you summon people to come, the clerk writes the letter, the clerk has to approve, it has to go through the speaker.
But isn't there consequences when Parliament summons an individual and the individual fails to show up? Aren't there consequences?
Well, I am yet to see how powerful this Parliament is. Don't forget we had the situation of VB in Parliament, who came right into the well of Parliament and defied the Honorable House. And he was sent to CID. Before the man could even come down to the Vice President's office, he was released. So how do you tell me Parliament is that powerful?
So if we can start with what the question Phoebe asked about Parliament taking responsibility for our situation. You are the people's representative. You have the power to provide oversight responsibility, enact laws and represent the people. If you cannot do your work, if you can't enforce your powers, will you want to take responsibility as well?
I will not deny the fact that this current Parliament ought to have done many things to have remedied the current situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will not. In fact, it behold my integrity to even say, no, we've done everything we could to have mitigated some of these issues. Mm-hmm. We tried. I remember the situation of Hassan ACC, our whip, calling for the bank governor to come. Mm-hmm. You know, these are not peculiar problems. We know the problems as lawmakers. As my brother is here sitting down, he will tell you, analyze all the problems. But the truth is, we've not been allowed to operate a parliament that is the opinion of the people.
Who is not allowed in Parliament?
Well, within the Parliament itself, these are not issues that we should cover up anymore.
So who is not allowed in Parliament?
You call, like, I remember I called for the Ministry of Finance to come and explain to us when we had the situation of buying COVID vehicles. We raised up the issue. When we had the issue of even Chernobyl raising issues of corruption around the office of the First Lady, the office of the Presidency, we called for him to come, and the Speaker said, we invite them to come. As I sit here, I am still waiting for the invitation. And that power to invite people to come to Parliament when they are being requested for, the power to summon is not in the hands of ordinary men like us who are MPs. It's in the hands of the Speaker. So for me, I'll say the current trend of Parliament we have, what the problems Sierra Leoneans are facing, and the blame squarely ends in the hands of the Speaker.
You mean the Speaker of Parliament should take responsibility?
Of course, he needs to.
Okay.
Because he has not been doing what we want as members of Parliament.
Honorable Tawa, you've heard from your colleague that you are one individual who've even challenged the Parliament and systems within Parliament. You've raised issues about agreements and deals you think that are not right. You've raised issues about accountability. Do you agree with him that the Speaker should take responsibility?
I agree with him to an extent that we have constitutional powers as members of Parliament, and those powers revolves around the provisions in Section 73, in Section 105, 97, and 90. Those are the present the powers to make laws, but those oversight responsibilities and necessary oversight or ancillary oversight tools, including summoning people to Parliament to inquire and to go on the field and exactly, at least, corroborate what you hear from them in Committee Room 1 or any other committee room in Parliament, does not rest squarely with the chairman or with parliamentarians that are in that committee. That is to say, they can ask the clerk to do a letter, but that letter cannot be signed by the chairman of the committee. That letter has to be signed by the clerk of Parliament. And the clerk of Parliament is the principal advisor to the speaker. So in terms of parliamentary administration, if things are not going well in Parliament, then you would agree with him that it is in the hands of the head, and the head of Parliament is the speaker. So what needs to be done is, and I think there has been some changes with the fact that I've been calling for accountability, I've been calling for transparency, I've challenged issues, and I'll keep challenging those issues. It's not as if, oh, he has taken 10 steps backward. No, we are moving forward. And part of those challenges that he has highlighted is the fact that as members of Parliament, we are under immense pressure from our political parties. As members of Parliament, some of us have braved that particular cycle to say we are not afraid of 77-1K anymore. We will fight, and if we are going to die, let's die for a cause. But now, how can we manage all of this in performing our role? Our role is sacred. Let's not forget, what we do is sacred to this country, and we have to be given the necessary support in terms of making those things happen. In terms of summoning the Minister of Finance and the bank governor, there was a time I summoned the bank governor when I was chairman of Transparency, though for a very short while. I think my chairmanship lasted for not more than 2 weeks, and I resigned. But I summoned the bank governor. The bank governor was, well, according to him, he went for a meeting. But I have summoned them, I have given them the letter was signed, they acknowledged, they sent us the documentation. On the day for the hearing, the bank governor refused to come. I sent policemen to go and bring the bank governor refused to come. So he sent few people. The few people that he sent to come and represent the bank and himself, I had to detain them because at the end of the day, we were looking for the head of the institution. The Director of Corporate Affairs cannot explain to us what we need to know in terms of disbursement of COVID support, economic COVID support to businesses to cushion import effects of the COVID. So we need the bank governor to come and tell us. At the end of the day, when I detained them, the bank governor came in a matter of minutes. So for me, I see those support. At that time, there was the free hand given to me to do that work. And are they giving me that hand? I'm sure most of the things that had happened that I was to investigate would have remedied them. But having said that, I would agree with him that as members of Parliament, we need to do more. We need to push more. We need to be collaborative in terms of working for the people and in the interest of this country. Because at the end of the day, if we work on the maxim that when your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't call the fire service, let it burn down. At the end of the day, we are burning down the country. Because if there are challenges with the economy and members of the APC or members of NGC or members of C4C have solutions to those challenges that we can bring together collaboratively to resolve some of those problems, I think we should not sit and say, oh, it's not my business, I will use it as a campaign material. But how can that be done? When you syndicate, sometimes you are branded by your parties. Sometimes if you want to work together, your party will call you in and tell you, oh, you're working with this man, and it seems as if you want to toe the line of APC or toe the line of SLPP. So in that space, the space is tightened up by the fact that political pressure is so much on members of Parliament.
Honourable Tara, just before we let that part of this conversation rest and move on to something else, it's worrisome as a citizen that members of Parliament complain how they're not being respected to a point where you invite individuals to come and have conversations in Parliament about the institutions they've been appointed to run. It is really worrisome. In that case, has there been discussions amongst you as parliamentarians to figure out a way forward? Because if the trend continues, it's going to go on a downhill trend from there.
I think there should not be a new engagement. For me, I always say one of the things that we have to manage and we have to do very well on, or do very well in, is the fact that as a country, and as a parliament, we have to respect the laws we pass. We have to respect the laws we make. And we have to respect the dictates of the Constitution. The Constitution has given Parliament responsibility. And the Constitution and every governance system across the world has made provision for separation of powers. And there are delegated powers given to people. But when it comes to Parliament, we must respect the provisions set out in the Constitution. We must respect the provisions we enacted in laws so as to ensure that Parliament have its powers. Otherwise, if we were going to run this country, it has been run that way for a long time. That, I'm a party in a power. If I do this kind of thing, then go say I don't undermine my party. No. All the things I've done and all the things I've said has helped my party the more. And I will tell you that most of the things I've said that have been corrected, if you go to Parliament today, I will tell you, the clerk will not effect a transaction without having documentation. Today, the clerk cannot just disburse money now without somebody. Somebody cannot just come with one cock and bull story and the clerk disburse money like before. No, the clerk will tell you that I have to account. I have to give out. So things are changing, but we have to respect the laws. If we respect, there will be a lot of shift in terms of parliamentary positions not be respected, and that's very sad. It's very painful, I will tell you, because as members of parliament, the society owes us to very high esteem. And when it comes to performing our work, you say someone, a particular MD, and that MD will just call somebody and they will tell you, okay, leave that one for now and wait, we'll call them, we'll find a way. And these are things that are undermining
and
the
I'll
strength of
ask the
Parliament.
same thing again. So how do we get to the point where, as stipulated in our laws, when Parliament summons an individual, that individual attends to that summon as soon as possible? How do we get to a point where that happens? Because if government officials are not even respecting Parliament, how much so for a private institution that Parliament would say, for example, there's a mining company that has allegations, let someone, management. How do we get to that point?
You cannot summon the management of the mining company without going through the ministry, because we don't interface directly with the agencies or with the companies.
I'm just saying, for example, if government officials who ought to know better and serve a better example do not respond and respect Parliament enough to show up, how much more for private individuals?
Well, I want to play the devil's advocate. It is not the government officials that are not respecting Parliament. It is Parliament itself that is not giving itself the power to get compliance and adherence from these people. Because, for example, if you write to the MDs, they will begin to put the document together. What they will do is they will call somebody, a senior person in Parliament. And it is not the MD, the head of the MD that will call you as a member of Parliament, I'm not going to come. It is somebody that is at the highest cadre of parliamentary authority that will call it out. Leave that one for now. And
I don't understand. You were saying invitations have been sent out to these individuals for a summon and they didn't show up. Are you saying it's a case that the invitations were not sent out, but the impression was given to MPs that an invitation was sent out?
No, I am saying
I don't understand.
I am saying now a committee is heading in Parliament, yeah? Write a letter to Lamrana, who is responsible for Wake Up Sierra Leone, that we need to know exactly what your programs, what are your current programs, what programs do you have in future, how have you been expending monies collected from, yeah? And he has said, as the chairman, he has instructed his clerk to write to Lamrana as the head, or to write to the agency, Lamrana being the head. And the clerk of Parliament has signed that letter, and that letter has been dispatched. Lamrana has received that letter. Lamrana will now call you, who is head of maybe head of this chairman for, or the leader of government business, or the deputy speaker, or the speaker, that the Honorable Abdul Karim has written to us to bring these documents, but we are working on them. But you know how it is, if we bring all of these documents, it would have an impact and an implication on, that is the emotional part of it. They would use politics to cover themselves. And you as the head of government business will call the Honorable Abdul Karim that, okay, Lamrana has called me regarding that. Can we have a conversation? And in that conversation, they will tell you that, okay, you would have to leave this. And our standing orders say so. That's the unfortunate side. So, unfortunately, the standing orders give so much power to people at the top. And when you were instructed, that was why I was going through all of the challenging times I was going through, because at the end of the day, the standing order says I can be taken to ethics committee, though nothing was proven. But at the end of the day, I was punished for 10 months. I was moved to the back. I'm still at the back. And I'm comfortable at the back now. Let me be very clear about that. So people will not say, oh, he's crying like a crying baby. No, I'm comfortable at the back now. But at the end of the day, it shows that the powers we have to manage are so much that sometimes you will see us as if we are irrelevant, but we want to work.
Honorable, President Bio, in his address to you members of parliament, spoke about you know, a lot of public financial management measures being taken. The removal of you know, tax, duty waivers, duty tax on certain importation of certain goods like rice, flour, and other things. And he spoke about monetary policies that will help the economy. As members of parliament, you also have a responsibility to scrutinize some of those statements or to follow up on them. Still, people are complaining about the increase in prices of commodities, being those that are imported or those that we grow here in Sierra Leone. So what is Parliament, as members of Parliament, what do you think you can do, you know, to get the public to understand what is happening and what's your responsibility and what the responsibility of the government, especially when the president explains to you guys what he has been doing to address the issue?
You know, I keep smiling this morning because what we're having now is more of a conversation of what is expected of us to do as
yes,
which is moving the whole scenario now, not just to blame people, but what have you done to remedy the situation? You know, I keep saying we are not an isolated house. We are not just a parliament seated in Tower Hill and doing what we want to do. As you said, that's a debate we thoroughly dealt with. And most times when president makes statements, we just don't follow up a statement with just the debate and it ends there. And that is why my brother was saying, we call the people who are in charge. Like Gino Navo will say, okay, 8:30, all cameras should be on, and it gives responsibility to this. I'm going to ensure this happen. Somebody must be there to ensure the things happen. And that's why we call these people who are responsible. Members of parliament are not responsible. We only provide oversight. As you were saying rightly, just about 2 weeks ago, we called again the bank governor. When some of us drove all the way from Cambia to come to town to ensure we attend the meeting, it was on that very day they told us, oh, we are sorry, the bank governor could not make it. And until you ask those relevant questions, until you have dialogue with these people, you cannot do as much as you want. The situation as we find ourselves now, you've rightly said, everything is going up. Even a bag of cement now in my constituency in Cambia is almost at 115,000, excluding if you have to pay transportation from Cambia to go to Masungbala, it costs you 120. You want the Minister of Trade to come and explain to us what is happening. But you write that, you ask a clerk to write that letter now, you will not get the person because that is how they want the system to operate. So it's not a situation of we not doing anything, but we find ourselves in a situation in which the people expect us to do everything. We should not be here saying some of these things, but we want the people to understand the situation we find ourselves, because we are young people who believe we still have much to do to offer Sierra Leone.
So you can't do much more than what you're doing?
We are arms tied. We are arms tied.
But again, I want to ask, when these laws come to parliament, these acts or bills, when they come to parliament, you know, you sometimes you have very good relationship with these ministers or heads of parastatal. To some extent, you'll have members of parliament sharing praises on them, of their work they're doing. How does it happen? Because they go through committee stage before they come to the well of parliament.
You have different committees in parliament. I'm sure you're talking about like appointments.
No, I'm talking about, say, the Ministry of Trade. That comes with a bill. They're asking Parliament to actually, you know, enact. We've seen on live TV where members of Parliament will share praises on them, on what they're doing, instead of asking some of the critical questions.
Well, again, it depends to where you turn the camera. And that's why I will not also take it away from the speaker sometimes.
Gentlemen, sorry to cut you there. As you say this, it would be good for you to also, our team went out to talk to the citizens. It's good for you to also hear what some of them had to say. Let's quickly get that vox pop and we'll come back to continue the conversation.
Like the parliaments, because now them, I feel say get the own thing, now they get the government. Because now them for Sidom, now them they make the law, now then they emphasize the law, Now then for make this law, for make, I feel say the country go straight, the country will go further. If the parliament not sit down, they not try for strategize, they not try for come to one, forget about partism, forget about this, we come to one as a whole, as a nation, for make Salon go. It not go easy. If we not come to one, if we not put we hand them together, the parliament need for sit down, they need for come to one, they need for emphasize the law, they need for do great things. I believe say for me Salon will go before.
My own opinion, I feel say parliament stay beaucoup for them because parliaments they make the laws. And actually laws in the country. So I feel say they get a lot to do. One, now parliaments for look into the control of prices in this country. Control in a sense, the price not get control in this country, and if we not get control how prices and the inflation in this country, I'm not fit to say we able for control the economy. Let's say I mean by that. Now, people they grab the put low price every day. If we may get a system where they monitor the price control in this country, I believe say they actually they play a great role for reduce the pressure where the country face in terms of the economic struggle. Secondly, I think say Parliament and government need for encourage more external businesses and for come in the country. One, what make we need for get external businesses in the country because now take into consideration the dollar. The dollar they inflates drastically because of the high taxes we companies and they pay. So we make beaucoup million on this country right now. Parliament will look into the taxes where they impose on people where they come with businesses, people where they come with structures for come implement the country. Then for look into some of the taxes where they put on some of them people where they make their run away. Then they're failing for realize say when some of them companies and they come, then get most of we as Sierra Leoneans can get for the job opportunity. Because they can't do everything all by themselves. Then get for find people that they get for work with them. And then they help for reduce the lack of employment in the country. Another way where they also affect the economy.
Parliament get role for play. Get role for play, for come, for let them do, for let things go fine, for the layman in the country. Put things in place. To me, own idea. They will put things in place. Long office. And wait to the experience so for let it not repeat again. Things are rough. The country rough. Everything's scarce. Everything don't go up. Rest so Pamayo, this official, school fees so look at this I go pay for my picking and say about 1,100,000 and 900,000 I pay.
All right, welcome back. Those were voices of random citizens. I noticed a comment on Facebook, somebody saying, the people are speaking, Parliament, listen. So it was quite apt to put it that way. The people have spoken, and now you've heard what they said. But oftentimes in Parliament, especially for state opening, the president would make a statement. There are also other policies here and there, seeking to address the economy, which has been termed the bread and butter issue. Yet, the citizens still continue to complain. So it's not about the policies and what we say, it's about what they face, their own realities. And somehow along the line, there's a disconnect between all the policies and beautiful statements and the reality on the ground. How does Parliament track all of this?
Well, if it's for statements, if it's for beauty expressions, if it's for the ideas, I'm not sure as a country or as a government we lack ideas. We don't lack expression. But where the problems are, like remember in 2020 I was in the same studio. Then my brother was in the blacklist, was blacklisted, and we were discussing the Finance Act with Josie. I told him, when government continue to tax the people, when government continue to tax the business people, what happened is a situation in which they don't take responsibility. They send the burden back to the ordinary people. And there are commodities that are of multiple effects, like fuel, for example. If you increase fuel, the effect is on the ordinary person. So do all the statements you want, give all the good expressions, sugarcoat the words and make them look good. The economy is not a political tool. The economy is a realistic tool. I keep telling people, you can do propaganda around any other thing, but you cannot do propaganda around the economy because it's a living thing. It's in the house of every person. And again, we are also affected in all of this because we are also citizens. We don't have a special shop to buy as politicians.
So you earn more than the ordinary citizens. So
well, I don't want to go into that conversation at all.
No, I'm saying you earn more than the ordinary. The guy you saw in that video, I'm sure, who is a petty trader or earn less than what you earn. So he's more affected than yourself.
I agree with you perfectly, but I have also more troubles than him. Let's don't go into that conversation. I have more expectations. More, the more the responsibility I have in my constituency.
As opposition members, I want to ask, has there been any documents or recommendations, say this is how we think things could be done better? This is our own blueprints. This is how we think the economy can be handled to change the things that are happening with people, the rise in prices of local commodities.
When I was young, they say...
Now, process that thought so you would share with us just after this. It's 8:45 and the economy isn't that great. Let's make some money from AYB. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll come right back.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Okay, welcome back. Honorably, we are saying, I was asking about a possible blueprint. Say, this is how we think the economy can be changed, the issues can be addressed.
That's what I was saying. When we were young, they told us gods and fools don't change. But I have lately understand, not just fools, wise people believe they are more intelligent than other people, do not even seem to listen. We find ourselves in the situation in which every year, we keep saying the same thing. We keep saying the same thing, whether it's a budget, whether it's a finance act, whether it's a presidential speech, we keep saying almost the same thing. And what happens is we are not even considered as part of governance, I would say. Because when you tell people, okay, one thing we had before governance was President Bill telling us tax waivers are a beautiful way to encourage corruption. So we're expecting something new. But what we've continuously been doing and continuously critiquing is we give so much of tax waivers, you understand? Even in this regime. We give too much of tax on the ordinary people. Like my brother will agree with me, this Finance Act, almost everything was increased.
But these are incentives. These are incentives to make things, easier, to help importers, reduce the price of say, rice.
Interestingly, the tax waivers we see are not for ordinary business people, and not for the importers. You think those who bring in rice, onions?
But there are duty waivers on rice, I think. Yes.
How is that how has that affected the sales of rice in the market?
So how much have you done as members of parliament to provide the oversight responsibility to monitor and report on things like this?
It will sound insulting to continue to smile and laugh when serious matters like this are mentioned. But I have told you, this current parliament lost its face because the SLPP never wanted to deal with one man who was VB. And because of that, where we are now, anybody can just trample on us. You call the Minister of Trade today, I am sure he will give you another 1 month, he will not come. So the problem is, it's not that we don't want to do.
So you don't have the legitimacy, even as the people's representative.
What is the legitimacy when people have battered and killed the image of this parliament? Where is the legitimacy? I am giving you a vivid, you have the videos. You can go back to your archives and see. This was a man who came to parliament in the full view of the country. He denied everything parliament wanted. And with the powers we have as parliament, including the speaker, he was sent to CID to go for 3 days, just 3 days. The man could not even come to VP's office, and he was asked to be released. Where do you have these powers from?
Honorable Tawa.
You invite anybody to come, the person will come at his own will. We have the situation of Honorable Tawa and myself, who were in a committee, and we only wanted the minister to tell us what the reality of the situation was. And he ended up finding himself in trouble.
Honorable Tawa, you know, like he's saying, the powers that Parliament, has are enormous. You can detain people, but you've seen Parliament using that in other ways, in calling people out. Is it that this Parliament that you're part of does not have the legitimacy or the control to do things as an independent Parliament that will help the governments to run things in the country, to address issues like basic commodities where people increase price at will?
I believe we do. In terms of price increase and the dynamics for those increases, we would have to look at the overriding surrounding background of it. For me, as Parliament, I think we have the powers. I think we have the mandate. But what we lack is putting those powers and those mandates into effect. And if we don't put those powers and those mandates into effect, it will be counterproductive on that man that you just interviewed on that Vox Pop, who wants and who expects, and that's the most insulting part of it. I have to be very honest, that the people that we call ordinary knows that Parliament has power.
Exactly.
The people that we say they are grassroots knows that the solution for their problems lies in Parliament. The people that we call street traders will tell you that Parliament has to do this, Parliament needs to look at this, Parliament needs to look at this. Parliament that has these powers feels intimidated and plays under the shadows of few other powers that they have equal authority. In this business of governance, 3 arms of government, legislature and executive, we are virtually very equal and doing our work independently, and that's how it should be done. It is only with the judiciary that has the constitutional powers to determine and declare both acts of the legislature and the executive ultra vires unconstitutional. But in that instance, they can't even go beyond us to override what Parliament has passed. So now it is incumbent on us as members of Parliament, and I'm sure our leaders are listening, because if they are indicting Parliament, you are indicting me, yes, and it's a member of Parliament, but the level of responsibility, even in the setting up of the special court in Sierra Leone, there were combatants, there were militants that took part in the fight. But when they want to bring in people, they brought in those that bear the greatest responsibility. And in this instance, if the ordinary people are pointing at Parliament, asking Parliament to do something to transform the situation or to help the executive in changing the scenario, then the greatest responsibility and the buck stops with our bosses.
Your party won the elections on the campaign, on the promise of change, of how things will not be as they were with the past regime. Do you think specifically on Parliament doing its work, you have the leadership in Parliament to say the Deputy Speaker is a member of your party, and you're in governance as well. Will you want to agree that you failed in providing that change that you promised?
Can I say we have attained a level of what we actually put out in the public in terms of change, radical change? What I would say is the level of implementation of the change and acceptance of that change by the people and by people that have been in parliament before us is what is challenging. For example, I'll give you a clear example. It would have been unheard of, and that is clear and that will remain in the books of Sierra Leone, that a member of parliament sitting on the government bench can criticize documents, bills, can criticize issues, agreements that his party would table on the table of parliament without facing a more severe consequence. I will tell you, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but I'll tell you, if I was a member of another party, I would have been kicked out. Yeah, but I'm still there because the president believes that what I'm saying and what I'm doing in parliament represent the change that he campaigned on. Let's not forget that we are talking about the party, and I've said greatest responsibility for that campaign message, for that drive for change. It sits with the president. It's at the highest point. So if he does not see change in me, I tell you, he would have subscribed to other people that do not believe in his message, that let's kick him out, let him go, he's sabotaging our party. But he believes that change is imminent and we must drive that change. That is why I am still pushing, and I will still call on actors and stakeholders in this business for us to respect subsection 5 of section 119. Because that is part of the change. We must be seen doing things, and that is a very vital change that will have significant value to governance. That is to allow us members of parliament debate the Auditor General's report. We debate it, we bring out issues, we save monies and pass on that money to the executive, to the president, increase his pulse of spending so that we'll have social facilities being spent on, education have more budget, more financing. So for me, I will tell you that there has been changes.
Okay, we need to take some messages, right, Phoebe?
Yes, we would have to take some of these messages. Ooh.
Yeah.
The conversation on Facebook is a whole different. It's on another level.
I know.
Ronald Beresford Ignatius George Stone says, Parliament is weak because the executive calls the shots. I remember the current president was on various TV channels talking about excessive powers of the executive. Yet, now that he's in control, it's in fact using more of his powers he was against. How ironic is that?
Hassan Mansokagbo says the excuse of blaming COVID-19 for our failing economy is something we should not do again. There has been no growth and coherent fiscal policy since the government came to power. The economy has been fluctuating with high inflation and no stimulus to support growth.
Fordlands Cam says 2 persons must be sacked in this present economic situation in the country: the bank governor and the Minister of Trade. They have brought nothing good to His Excellency Bio's government. However, kudos to the Minister of Tourism, Ministries of Basic and Tertiary Education, Minister of Health, Internal Affairs and Health.
Umaru Bankura says, bring policies that will address the everyday increase in prices of everything. People are starving, and please don't say we are not working harder. It has been proven that those who work really hard in Sierra Leone have an average daily income of 10 to 15,000 leones per day.
Hassan Mansokagbo says all the problems with our parliament is down to the clerk and speaker. They haven't got to the wheel to work for the people, but for their party and president, because their appointment is political.
Eddie Grant says the bank governor is another recalcitrant old man. Is he untouchable? He's asking.
Med T says, Lamrana asked these parliamentarians, if they keep saying they say or requested for this and they don't listen to them, what is the importance of them sitting in that parliament and keep wasting the taxpayers' money on paying them handsome salaries that they are not, that they do not deserve?
Susan Boris says, please lawmakers help to advocate to reduce the price of food commodities. Push for a law that will help the ordinary Sierra Leonean.
Musa Conte says too many party puppets trumpeting the ills of the past, but okayed the wrongs of the current. Such citizens need re-education to redirect their focus in nation building and patriotism. The big void is that supporters and the government appear to draw a line between them and fellow citizens who have been deemed to support the other side. How can a nation be built on such premise?
The final one I'll take from Eddie Grant. He says, it seems the citizens know the role of their parliamentarians more than the parliamentarians.
And my final message I'll read is from Asan Mansokagbo. He says, the lazy excuse of this government and its suffering supporters, always referencing APC 11 years in a disgrace. Right, I think that's about the questions. We'll come back in a bit for you to respond to those questions and comments by our viewers on Facebook. But it's 9 o'clock. It's time we take a summary of top stories from our primetime news.
Sierra Leone judiciary visit private land at Belia Park community.
2006, it was a no-go area. I mean, this was all occupied by senior judges, magistrates, and officials of the judiciary, right from the gate up there. So all of this makeshift, you call it palm body, have only just cropped in from 2010, gradually. And I have, in the past, made representation to the judiciary to say that there was an influx of persons illegally putting up these palm body structures. On a number of occasions, they've made appearances to get them out, but it has not really been put into practice. There was a time when these people who sell coal, they began to do this. I mean, you know, they begin in a very small way, and when it's not really a pressure on them to vacate, they expand and they expand. My view about it was that it's better not to allow them to come in than to attempt to throw them out after they had been established. So over the years, we've seen grocery shops, barber shops, garages, wholesale areas, and the presence in the area has again had its negative effect on the road, the volume of traffic on the road, and the perimeter fence has been broken into at different places.
Because we want to make sure, say, anybody where they live here, for live here, because you know say this now is sanitized environment. For there, because when they come, you need for rest. From there, because when they come, you know say he or she is protected. But you know that there where they non-prostitute and they all about the place. Now net, now then they fetch them boys, then they fetch with them girl them na net. So all that things they happen.
Budget Advocacy Network engages Gambia district stakeholders on auditing importance.
In fact, this is not the first time we are getting this shock since the first engagement ban came the other time. That gave us the honors, you know, to invite some MDs some time ago, at least to start the ball rolling, to get them accountable before the paramount. Because whatever revenue that is generated in district, it is being generated on behalf of our people.
As a district, I think we are not happy as CSO. We are not happy at all with the outcome of the audit report and recommendations made. And because some of us, we are not happy seeing our district being left behind or less developed or failing to adhere to the recommendations, we want to assure the people of Gambia that our CSO will team up with other CSOs to ensure that the recommendations being implemented, and this time around council to work more and more to ensure that these issues have to be answered.
It's so surprising and disappointing from Gambia district. So as a civil society, and women to be specific, we are ready to put action plan, put things in place to implement.
And eminent women peace mediators Sierra Leone campaigns to promote political tolerance and peace.
Peace prevail in this country. We let we say, una na mama, una na sister, una na auntie, una na granny. When we work in one country, I see where women they suffer. during the war, when they run away, that they need Bambali picking them, that they touch them down to them at the head, that they run with the picking them. We are don't come together with a preach peace. Don't preach peace to alone and no say peace important than the world. Peace neither the best thing. Oh now no but peace. Una listen, wetin we dey talk, una go understand wetin we dey tell una. Una fet una sef na for nothing. Dem no dey call una say dem dey go make una minister. Una sit up, una do una work, una concentrate, una come together like sisters, one and one na the best thing nowadays.
Welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television. We still have our members of parliament with us in the studio. Yeah, you've had the Voxes, you've had from our viewers on Facebook as well, and it's clear people believe Parliament has the power. You know, Parliament can do what they're expecting them to do. But Honorable Tawalo, as you respond to those comments, I want to ask. Also, this government promised to, you know, ensure that they don't spend recklessly. They are able to save some money to spend in other areas. But you yourself, I've seen you challenging government expenditure. I've seen you challenging payment for certain things by people who work in government. Is that not the issue that we're having? That we are raising funds through, you know, tax, but we are not spending where we should spend. We're spending on individuals.
I think there are issues sometimes in some MDAs when it comes to the use of public funds and in terms of management of our expenditure. But overall, I would say we've had a situation wherein there has been critical reduction in government spending, because you see the budget, when they present the budget, you will see there are visible changes in terms of reduction in government expenditure. That doesn't save the fact that there are still things that needs to be done in terms of reduction in expenditure management. Because if we prioritize our expenditure, it would also save, like you said, and add value to other areas. Now you realize that the greatest expenditure of government is on the free quality education. Yeah. So what Parliament needs to do in terms of supporting government expenditure on the free quality education is to monitor the process of delivery on the areas for which expenditures are really going into. Let me tell you, there is something that everybody look as if it's something minor, but it's a major expenditure for government currently. Government pays the fees. Government pays fee subsidies to principals, to schools. And if you go to those schools, you will be shocked to see that nothing is happening in those schools. If you go to those schools, you would ask, what are they doing with the money? What are they doing with those fees? It looks small, but if you put it together, the aggregate sum of fees paid per term, every 3 months, runs into 500-600 billion leones. Sometimes goes into trillions of leones in a year. And these monies goes into the hands of these people. Now, how can that expenditure that government is making genuinely for the furtherance of education to build the human capital of this country, how can we ensure as Parliament that we monitor and see that they are put into the use that would help government in pushing? Because these monies are not meant for paying teachers. They are meant for maintenance of blackboards, repairs of chairs, ensure that we have convenient and adequate classroom with the ambience for the child to sit and learn. But if you go to some schools, my school, for example, you go to services, you will see the condition of my school. We are currently working as old people trying to rehabilitate one of the buildings. That building, you go there, the roofs were all worn out. There was no ceiling over the head of the children. And how can they learn in that environment? But government is paying that. So sometimes the expenditure pattern of government, some MDs, they put money in some things that have challenged, and I will challenge them every day, anytime, because if you don't spend wisely, it means you are taking from somewhere that government needs to spend that would affect the lives of the citizens and put into somewhere where government gets nothing. Now, in terms of responding to one particular question or one particular issue is the issue of COVID-19. We cannot distance ourselves from the impacts of COVID-19. If you go to the UK today, most of our small entrepreneurs that are trading or buying and selling, bringing things for pharmacies, for the small businesses, especially diapers, they get from the UK. If you go to UK today, it will be very difficult for you to have substantial quantum of diapers to bring to Sierra Leone because the supply chain is reduced and shrinks into such a point that they themselves, they are struggling to support their population. And Sierra Leone is almost 100% import-driven country. Most of the things we use, rice, I will tell you, CTC had to pay more to Luis Defas for most of the rice we are consuming now because the competition for those rice was so high that if they did not pay more, they would have diverted them to some other countries because the demand was high. So for CTC to have stock rice for Sierra Leone up to December 2021, they have to pay more. And if they pay more, the shipping cost has also increased because it is not as if the stock is available everywhere. Now they have to move from place to place to fill the ship. And when they fill that ship, if you're bringing the ship to Sierra Leone, you pay more. And if you pay more, they would also expect to do something to get at least their break-even point and make some profit because that's the point of business. Okay. But that's not to say COVID-19 is a blanket cover on what is happening. Things are happening in Sierra Leone, but the level at which things are happening at the policy level and at the transformational level. But what needs to be taken care of is connected directly to COVID-19 because even empty container, before now, empty container in Sierra Leone was $1,500. But you the ship come from Europe to Sierra Leone with empty container and you sell at 1,500. And the ship goes to China, that is shorter. They sell at 3,000. If you are the shipmaster, what will you do? You go to China and sell 3,000, you make more money and spend less. So that's the challenge. So we have even the exports, things that we were exporting, cocoa and the likes. We've lost so much in cocoa exports because we don't have containers. And some of this cocoa that we are produced and they have been processed are not being shipped out of Sierra Leone because we don't have containers. So COVID-19 has actually affected the economy. But I tell you, the economy will turn around. Like you said, there was a projected contraction of the economy of minus 2.5%. But currently, the economy is managing to stay alive because the economy is running at a rate of 3.5% to 4% growth. That is to say, the management of the economy in this difficult period has been efficient and has been effective. But the real effects in terms of managing the price is not there yet. So we are working, and Parliament needs to do more as an entity and as an agency, because if we look into these books, like he said, we are reviewing the budget, you've alluded to it, but it is only in our Parliament wherein we review budgets, whether the NDA performs or not, we approve the next vote in the next budget passing. So we have to look at ways wherein if the MDA did not use the money allocated to that MDA efficiently, we have to withhold that budget, ensure that we have all the answers to all the questions, have the correct documentations, we are able to verify those documentation against counter-documentation at the Accountant General's office, so as to ensure that that money, you don't come with stories. So for me, I think most of the things that they've said in the text message, the people knowing our responsibility, but I've said it, that the people, the ordinary man that you see on the streets, knows exactly what is expected of Parliament.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking your time to be a part of the program this morning. It's been a very productive conversation talking about the economy from the parliamentary perspective and what Parliament ought to do and how we move forward. Thank you very much, Honourable Tawa Conte. He's from the SLPP. Also, thanks to you, Honourable Abdul from APC, to be a part of the conversation. It's 13 minutes after 9 o'clock right now. We'll come back with the second segment in the program. But right now, did you know?
your breaking, factual and balanced local and international news from AYV Direct to your mobile phone via SMS. To subscribe on AfriCell, send star to 298 and stay connected for only 300 leones per day.
Here's how to avoid bringing COVID-19 into your homes. Wear long sleeves before leaving your house. Avoid wearing rings, bracelet or earrings, considering them as support for the virus. Limit public transportation as much as possible. Don't touch your face until you have washed your hands. At the supermarket, take a maximum safety distance of 1.50 meters. Use electronic payments. Arriving at home, take off your shoes. Clean your phone. Take off your clothes and wash them. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds and put all your shopping bags aside for 3 to 4 hours. Clean them and put them away.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
All right, welcome back. It's the second and final segment in the program this morning. Now in another conversation. Now, most roads in Sierra Leone are often non-existent or in poor condition. Potholes, cracks in the roads, and they're very common sights around. More often, dirt roads are the common feature of the rural transportation network. Sierra Leone has 11,300 kilometers of roads. Now, of these, only 904 kilometers are paved, and about 8%. Paved roads greatly ease the transportation of people, crops, and other products. So this morning, to discuss the state of affairs, we have Engineer Alfred Jalil Momodu, Director of Operations Management at the Sierra Leone Roads Authority, SLRA, and Abdul Karim Dumbuya, Public Relations Officer, Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority, SLRSA. And in our studio too, we have Charles Mambu, Board of Directors, Infrastructure for Development. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us in the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
And it would be best to start with SLRA. What's the current update of our roads?
Well, that's quite a very broad
of course,
inquiry.
In this context, right. Not the roads in good condition, but the roads in bad condition.
Well, I mean, I heard from your intro talking about roads are non-existent. So obviously, if they are non-existent, then we can't call them roads. In any case, we do have roads, at different forms. Some are, excellent. Some are good. Some are fair, and of course, some are poor. We are always striving to ensure that we attain the excellence. So in this strive, of course, we do put together our programs year after year, prioritize one time to the other to ensure that at the end of the day, we have an optimal level of service that will be able to serve the people of this republic.
Sometimes when people drive by, you would meet roads that it seems there's some work by SLRA going on to patch them up. And we see that often, but there are areas where it takes a whole lot of public cry to get attention from SLRA to patch those roads. So when it comes to the area of patching, how's the patching going with the roads?
You know, most of the roads that we patch, these are roads that are made of bitumen. And of course, bitumen, I mean, it's not too friendly to our weather. I mean, both of the major weather that we have, the rains and even the dries, because when the sun beats it too much, it may start to bleed, and then when it rains too much, of course, we know that water is not friendly to anything whatever, it can destroy anything. So those are the sort of situations that we're faced with. But in any case, when you know the SLRA, we are working, we have of course our engineers and other staff, but we also rely on the public. So I mean, it shouldn't be anything too bad for people to let us know that such situations are existing, and when they do, we'll move in there to see that we've resolved those issues. Of course, the public outcry, like you said, I mean, it will always have to come. The fact of the matter is, we all rely on road. 7 million people or so in this republic rely on road for whatever they are doing. So for a single situation, we may have more people, a lot of people complaining, because if you pass there and then you see it, you raise it up, and then Mr. X passes there, he raises it up. So we have these situations, but sometimes the situation could not be as graphic as the report that you may see.
And let's bring SLRSA into the conversation. Some of these roads, the potholes, the semi-broken slabs, and all of it pose a huge risk. It's a serious danger to not only pedestrians but also vehicles along these roads. How does SLRSA come in to work with SLRA to ensure that roads that need urgent attention to save lives and property are attended to immediately?
Thank you very much. It's a very serious challenge for our road users, because they complain to us. If you listen to radio, many people will say, SLRSA, no, they fix the road signs, no, they fix the potholes. But our role here in the road sector is to generate the money. And also, there is the treasury for the road sector, which is called the Road Maintenance Fund. They are in charge. We pass on the money to the Road Maintenance Fund, and the Road Maintenance Fund, they say, SLRA, the Sierra Leone Roads Authority, should request for it to undertake maintenance of roads. That is the challenge, and sometimes the bureaucracy, by the time they put things together for implementation, you have the wet season. And most times during the wet season, you don't undertake certain development on the roads.
So how do you collaborate? You mentioned, road signs. I drive in Freetown. I know all of us do, and there are areas you don't even have road signs, and other parts in the country as well. How do you collaborate? Because road signs are very important for the people who you give license, the people who pay for license to SLRSA. How do you collaborate with these institutions?
We are always working together. In fact, the SLRA, Sierra Leone Roads Authority, they are part of the Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority Board. So we pass on some of our concerns through that channel. And also, in May, the Director General of SLRA and the Executive Director, they met, and it was resolved that we should revive what we call the Traffic Management Committee, comprising of the Sierra Leone Police, the SLRSA, the SLRA. And I'm sure that will deepen the collaboration so that we can be in a position to push the Road Maintenance Fund for the timely release of funds to replace either damaged road signs, to refill potholes, and even the road markings. Because sometimes when you go to certain communities where you should have zebra crossings, no zebra crossings, no double yellow lines. So these are all concerns. But with the revival of the Traffic Management Committee, I'm sure by early next year, we'll see difference in the road sector.
Engineer, I want to ask you again, how much is SLRA involved in the construction of some of our roads. Specifically, maybe I'll ask on those in Freetown, because Wilkins Road is one example. When it rains, you see how it's flooded. You know, this is a road we invested so much in, we've made. Whenever it rains, it's flooding almost every other part of the road. How much are you involved in the engineering or the monitoring of the construction of that work?
The SLRA is involved, I mean, not only the Wilkins Road, is involved in every road construction in this country. And we are involved at every stage. We are involved from the conceptual stage to the design stage, supervision, and then at the end, we are involved in the maintenance. But then you reference Wilkinson Road and you reference the flooding, right? You know, this is something we've discussed from one media house to the other, from one press conference to the other. We are challenged by human activities. The Wilkinson Road, for example, it lies at the bottom of the hill. Look at it. I mean, if you are westbound, you look at the left. I mean, Signal Hill, the other hills are all there. On those hills, we have construction works going on there, which are completely unengineered. People are not making adequate provision for drains. People cut these hills, and they don't do the adequate engineering preparations. So at the end of the day, like I said earlier on, water is a diligent worker. It falls, and of course, these compounds have been paved, which means it cannot percolate, as nature would prefer it to be. Then it has to flow, find its way out. At the end of the day, it ends up in our drains, drains which are made mainly to collect the runoff from the road, and of course some other ones are coming in around the catchment. You know, we are not going to make drains, for example, bigger than the road. I mean, we don't have the space. We have the luxury of that space. So we design our drains adequate enough to carry the runoff from the roads and of course the adjacent areas, right? But then also when these rain, I mean, when the water is running towards the road, down the hill, it also comes along with loose material.
Okay.
You have people who dig these places, they leave them like that. Water, I mean, we always take them, and then the drains are silted, so obviously
so
they
meaning
will not
every
function.
year we have to spend more. I see a lot of people are going around, people working for SLRA, so contractors digging up drainages, and every year in, year out, we see this at Dundas Street, Pademba Road, at Wilkinson Road, and other places. Is there any sustainable plan? Say, this is what we have. This is the concept we have, the idea that's to address issues like this.
Yes. So to have a sustainable solution, it has to be an integrated approach. We need to have lands, for example, and country planning, for example, monitoring the construction of buildings and, I mean, all the other related things around the building. You are doing it. I mean, we've seen more often than not when people have their piece of land, all they do, they erect their perimeter walls. They don't even care about how water will be drained on the roads or their drives, right? And these are all the problems that we are, I mean, that we'll end up facing. So we have to have the EPA, the Ministry of Land, I mean, all of these agencies, we have to come together, plan programs to ensure that in the first place we've educated people about their activities, because human activity is one of the greatest menace that is actually affecting our roads, right? So that has to be addressed.
How much do you collaborate with the Freetown City Council or say councils across the country? Because, you know, road work and stuff should be one of the devolved functions to councils, but SLRA is still holding on to it?
No. SLRA is not holding on to it. You know, like you said, local councils, these are responsible for local roads. And these roads, they have been categorized I mean, they are put in different categories.
Okay.
Councils are responsible for the maintenance of feeder roads. And these feeder roads, they have been exclusively devolved to councils.
Like in Freetown, which are the feeder roads? Which one is the feeder road or local roads? Say in Freetown, which one do you categorize as feeder road?
They are there. Right. There are a couple of roads that are feeder roads.
Okay.
Yes, they're there. I mean, it's also up to the council, I mean, to rise up to its own challenge. But in any case, if there's a situation where, I mean, roads, normally when you talk about roads, people, the first thing that comes to mind is the Sierra Leone Roads Authority. So in the Freetown area, whether it's a feeder road or a trunk road. If the roads authority sees a situation there, we handle it.
Okay. Let's before, I think it's 9:30 already. We need to take a break, right? Before we go to Charles. We still have Charles Mambo with us in the studios. He's in Studio 2. We'll be coming back to him. Let's take a quick break. Commercial break. Will be coming right back.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
All right, welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV television. And in this final hour of the program, we're discussing the condition of our roads in the country. We have a representative from the Sierra Leone Roads Authority and the Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority. Also, we have Charles Mambo, from civil society. Charles Mambo, let me join you in this conversation right now. From the submission of the two gentlemen in the main studio with us, and of course you move about in the country, and the status of the roads you see, what do you have to say?
Yeah, thank you very much. Sierra Leone's road network, as you earlier on said, is in a very bad situation. For the last couple of years, out of the 11,300 kilometers, I think we continue to make steady progress to make sure that they are paved, to make sure that they are opened, and to make sure that they are passable, and especially during all the two seasons, both the dry and the rainy seasons. Road is part of the wider infrastructure that we are dealing with as a country and by extension in Africa. And it is the most expensive sector for human capital development. You know, for any country to be classified as a middle income and developing country, one of the benchmarks, you know, that people actually use to grade us is the conditions of our infrastructure. We have 5 key, but road is one very, very key because it's the one that crosses across all the others. Like you said, for us working on infrastructure and road in general, we have been almost on every day, you know, seeing the road, using the road, observing the road, studying the road. And like we are also saying, we have very bad roads across the country. For the last couple of years, government is making a lot of efforts, you know, by providing the required human, technical, and some amount of financing support to get them. You know, I listened to Lamarana, you know, asking about, you know, the bad state of the road, especially in Freetown. A few days ago, when it actually rains heavily, I traveled from Calbatan using the Blacko Road, you know, up gone. And that road was done in 2017, 2018, from Upgon Turntable using Blacko Road up to Calbatan. You know, if you look at the state it is today, you cannot imagine whether that road a few years ago was that same road. One of the bigger problems Sierra Leone is facing in all sectors, including road, is the application and enforcement of our laws that governs all institutions, agencies, and issues that government and donors are spending a lot of money on. You know, when you travel that road, even at this time as we are talking, you find out that there's the drainages have been blocked. You know, people have built very close to the house, to the roads. There's no respect for the right of way. You know, businesses is the order of the day. You know, so you have nobody to turn up to. You know, so sometimes the road itself it remained bare. You know, I will be asking, who do I actually turn to? You know, you turn to XLRA, which are premises, according to the Act of 1992 as amended 2010. You know, they will also have the kind of, you know, setbacks that are associated with it. Look at Rodin Street, my brother. You know, if you go down to Rodin Street, especially the upper part, it has been totally closed for the last 6 years to traffic. All what you can see there is street trading. And not only trading, you know, when the traders are actually building their wares, you know, their store, they are actually digging the particular tar that was put on that road at a very high cost to the government of Sierra Leone and development partner. But again, nobody, you know, have the dare or the law with him or her to remove those people. So human activity, you know, the issue of what sometimes we refer to as lawlessness, lack of enforcement of the law to protect our roads, this is across the country, is extremely very important.
We should take responsibility on these issues you've highlighted.
You know, we have 3 people. Sierra Leone is a sovereign state governed by law, and we have a government democratically elected. So whatever happening within the boundaries of Sierra Leone is actually the responsibility of government. You know, we also have the people that are being governed, and we have development partners. You know, the greater part of it actually is the government of Sierra Leone. You know, in terms of funding this road, I will tell you, like many other infrastructure, funding the road is extremely very expensive, and that is why we are always telling them, don't just spend resources on this road, protect them. Because if you spend money and you don't protect them, they deteriorate much more faster. That's why you need to have laws. For instance, the axle load policy. We have just completed a 4 days conference with a team from Banjul. You know, they came here to learn from us, and we also learned from them. When I say they were actually the guests of the Sierra Leone Road Authority, the Road Maintenance Fund. You know, they are implementing what we call the axle load policy, where vehicles are checked, you know, and allowed to use particular road based on the number of axles, because the number of axles a vehicle has will determine the kind of load they have. In Sierra Leone, we don't have that. You know, for infrastructure for developments, you know, we have been campaigning for the production, implementation of that policy for more than 6 years now. Up to now, as I'm talking, it's still in the drafting state. You know, when you see these long trailers from Guinea, and some of them also in country, they ply our roads, they pay very little, you know, because we don't have that policy yet to check the amount of load that you need to use on the particular road. We're talking about the feeder roads. Almost all feeder roads in Sierra Leone are in bad state, especially during the rains, because we now have what we call the timber market, which is a booming market, you know, for our people, you know, those who are involved, the government and the Chinese. But these people actually uses our feeder roads, and they are carrying heavy duty materials, you know, without paying for them, for the construction and maintenance of those feeder roads. And there's no policy as to when a vehicle or a truck, you know, with heavy goods will actually use a feeder road. Instead, there's no, as we're talking, there's no policy of that. If it is also not implemented. So during the rains, you know, in August, you know, sometime last year, government, through SLRA and the Ministry of Works, actually paid very close to $40 million you know, on 40 roads across the country. These have been virgin roads to be opened so that they can be used, you know, both during the dry season and the rainy season. You know, we did a first assessment on those, and we presented the report, and we just completed. You know, we wanted to see whether those roads are actually suitable for being used during the rainy season.
We would really like to know the content of the report. But just before we get to that, let's hear from citizens, you know, their feedback on the status of our roads.
Well, it affects me greatly, Daddy. Greatly now. Government, they don't really try. They don't say people don't come for do this work. But we don't really understand it. They don't work. They don't do their work. They are the people that they come and do the work undone. Things are not they go normal one now. You don't see even when they don't come work now. They go they all lump well back. All lump well. The people that come they do the work. And when they don't do the work, the space, the all they don't still dig back. They just come, they do their work here on rush. You don't understand? So even now say before they talk to you, what they come a bike, you even can't get problem. I would say safe. It's a boss where you say gallop with somebody. It's a boss. With the balance, you see keke the castle, but to come back the castle. With the fed for balance, you go the fed for balance keke, or the fed for balance motocar. You go meet up, you come bike back. When you serve the fed for balance and gallop and
which you see can even the poor business, just like if you go buy egg and then bad wood and the sheep. So like we get so many constraints, you know, we affect the business the way they poor, and then the shop the way you go, they know they return again. So it's me just get for see SLR you get work for them. They need to amend them potholes them.
You go buy the business. It affects for transport business right now. Where is your plan to lie right now? So for go at all. Transport so the motor cannot system for go. And they straight for go. They then sit there, make them try for amend their sit problems right now.
I'm putting the social gas. And the patch boy, net take 2-3 months down. It is a because the social gas to them put. So they make the October the next day. They group something under the cake. You not feel fine, but they so while the government will make, if you have a pull the water, new one, you know bad. Yeah. But then put to the relay and they affect you. They are well machine there. The machine they know they're not doing put to any smooth road. All the work book, and then we'll learn this. So we fed up with the whole learn.
Those were voices of some citizens giving their feedback on what they think about the roads, our roads in the country currently. Just before we went for that, I was saying would like to get details of that report from you, Mambu. But before we come to that, I'd like to get the response of SLRA and SLRSA on those vox pops, what the people had to say.
Okay, so I mean, it's good that such a vox pop was done, and of course that it informs us, except that I'm not too sure of which particular road they are talking about, because each road has its own peculiar challenges. So if I was actually aware of the particular road, then I'll clearly lay out what's
we actually did Freetown. It's
yeah, but in Freetown we have a lot of road projects going on with different contractors. However, I mean, like I said earlier on, we have issues that do affect our construction. I mentioned weather earlier, of course funding, and then you know, so we have these issues which have the potential to derail some of these projects. So probably the area they are talking about is an area where we have started construction, and then for some reason, either when the rains were coming around June, because I mean we can effectively only do our construction works for 6 months, say from October to May, and then June, July, those are the rains. Like I said, the weather is not too good for our works, for road works. So the works will be scaled down. So I mean, it could be such a situation. Okay. But then, however, I mean, our eyes are on these roads. We are looking at them. We are putting up programs to ensure that whichever road that we've started is completed, and where we think, you know, or after prioritization that we should intervene next. We have all those records, and I mean, we are working with our program.
Okay, let's ask SLRSA, like Phoebe was saying, the boxes you've just seen. These are some of your clients, people who drive keke or Okada. What the trust that they should have that when they pay their monies, you know, the roads are made so that they can use them easily.
Indeed, it's a challenge, but that's why I said the process of reviving certain committees that can look into some of these issues has been done. The two CEOs, and even some time ago, meet with the Road Maintenance Fund, because there are some issues, the release of funds from the Maintenance Fund to do some quick fix, especially during the dries. We are approaching the dry season. This is a period we do some quick fix along certain roads, the fixing of markings, the fixing of road signs, and I'm sure this dry season will see, I've seen SLRA has issued a bid for the fixing, for road markings along certain strategic roads across the country. That's part of their mandate, and that is why we are generating money, the money that we give to the road fund.
Even your own entrance floods, I've drive past in front of you.
That is the challenge he was talking about, the same like you have Wilkinson Road. Human activities along the hilltop. That is affecting our roads. Yes, Manfred. We have done a lot of studies, but because of the human activities, that situation is difficult to address, yes.
Engineer, quickly, there is a message I want to read. It says, feeder roads should be concrete, not coal-tarred, for lasting sustainability, and the utility companies like Guma and EDSA should also be responsible to make sure that they meet the highest standard of repairs when they dig up the roads. This is another issue, you know. SLRA will contact a company to maintenance a road, and the following days or weeks or months, you'll see one of the utility companies digging up the road. How do you collaborate and work as well in addressing these issues?
You know, the road sector has been faced with a lot of challenges. And I mean, it's good that this is coming out from the people themselves, not from engineer model. I mean, to imply that we've started put this challenge together to bring to the public. Now the public is bringing, I mean, these challenges onto us. Of course, we have endeavored a great deal to work with the utilities, the Serates, the EDSAs, the water companies, the fiber optics. But then we still have some challenges. To a certain extent, it could be understandable, but we are trying to see how we could perfect this collaboration. We've have instances where, you know, we've spent a very, very long time to construct a road, long time to construct a road. And once that road is constructed or commissioned, and then a week or so, Guma has an issue with a pipe there, or EDSA has an issue with a pipe there. Again, I mean, we don't have the right to stop them because these are utilities serving you and I. I mean, that's what these institutions were made for. But the best thing we could do is we should carry forward this development holistically, which means if we want to do Wilkinson Road, for example, next year, we collaborate with EDSA, all the utilities. So next year we'll be doing this road. So this collaboration should start even at the stage of budget preparation. So EDSA will focus on the areas, for example, that the SLRA will be doing new roads. So once we've done these roads, I mean, they don't get to come and cut the road in a couple of weeks or months after completion.
Okay.
But then that's also a very huge challenge because they also have their own programs, and they also have, you know, they are serving customers, and these customers, they bring up their issues, so they have to deal with these issues. However, what the Sierra Leone Roads Authority is doing now in all of our township roads, all of the new roads that we are doing, we are ensuring that we are providing cross ducts. These are concrete structures that will put across the road. So when you come, when any of the utilities come, you're not going to cut our road again in the middle. There's a site which is normally should be the right of way. You can place your utility there. If you want to cross on the other side, the provision that we've made like I said, in the form of the cross dots, concrete structure, reinforced, very well done. The road passes over it, and then you pass your utility through it. So this is what we've been doing now. We did a whole lot of that on Wilkinson Road, and you've not really seen any such cuts on Wilkinson Road. So these are similar provisions we are providing, not only in Freetown, but in all of our other cities.
No problem.
Okay.
Continue to stay with us. We'll come back to give you more feedback from our Facebook page that you can react to. But let's join Ransford McLean, our sports correspondent, for Sports Update this morning.
Right, thank you so much. Now, former heavyweight champions Edgerton Foster, that represents Sierra Leone in the 1984 Olympic Games in Las Vegas, United States, has paid a visit at the Shaka Stevens Stadium Boxing Gym in Freetown. According to the president, Solomon Kagbo said, is to inspire boxers on techniques of the sport.
Its purpose in the association is to get a good background of what's going on in the association and what it can help to make sure it improve the Sierra Leone boxing as a whole and the boxer as a whole, so that and see how best we can develop a technical team, because by him coming here with all his experience, I think he have a lot in his hand to present to us so that we can do a better, transform Sierra Leone boxing to another level.
Some therefore beginning of turn pro or started coaching. Because why? When I don't reach the stage of peak, even when they push you now, you're not able to come this way.
We're now in cricket. The Sierra Leone Cricket Association has confirmed the death of their former national coach and senior cricket development coordinator, Cyril Panda. He was known as Godfather among them because of his contribution over the years. Let's take a look. The former national head coach and the senior cricket development coordinator of the Sierra Leone Cricket Association, Cyril Panda, this came as a shock to many in the cricket family. Panda's contribution over the years of developing young cricketers have been tremendous. He was referred to as Godfather amongst them. He also helped develop young talents across several ovals in the country. In another development, the ladies Patriots that are currently competing in the ICC T20 Africa Women's Qualifiers in Botswana, the team will play their next match against Namibia on the 13th September 2021. After the team lost the first match to Nigeria, there is high hope of expectation for them to have a win against Namibia. Namibia has been referred to as one of the strongest sides in the tournament. Runs for McLean, AYV Sports Freetown. And finally, in football, the recommencement of the Sierra Leone Premier League saw Bo Rangers Football Club trash Eastern Tigers 2-0 to maintain top spot of the standing. Meanwhile, Eastern Lions, defending champion, won by a 0-0 to Sierra Leone Police to take over as second spot in the competition. So many interactions, so many top match that we saw between different clubs. Well, that's all I have for you for sports. And back to you.
Right. Right, thank you very much, Ransford McLean. I have to smile as I smile to Lamrana that they're second on the league and we're still number one on the league.
You've played more matches.
That smile that comes with it.
You've played more matches. You'll be coming.
We still have SLRA, SLRSA and civil society in the studio. We're talking about the condition of our roads. Gentlemen, as we round up, we're going to read through some of the messages and get your reaction to them quickly. Cherno Ebari says, why is it challenging for all concerned, including our own engineers, to rehabilitate roads like Abacha Street, Cooltown Road, Eastern Police Roundabout, Pike Street Junction, etc. As those roads, we use them every second, not only commercial drivers, but even you, stakeholders.
Lamin Moses Kaba says, Road Authority, you seems to have totally forgotten Easton's village.
Cherno A. Barry again, he says, as a city driver, I'm really disappointed these agencies responsible to manage our roads. We are all here using these roads, but you see the problems, but no action. Why?
And Hassan Mansukagbo says what's also lacking in our highway and roads is proper road marking and signages.
And my final message is from Abdul Pierre Koma, who says, why can't we learn from Namibia, a small country with one of the best roads in the world? Sierra Leone is too small for the amount of money spent only on road construction and maintenance. Engineer, what are your long-term goals for Sierra Leone roads? Because I still can't see where we are going as a nation. Please, the way we are constructing our roads is bad. By the time they finish the construction, the starting point is already due for maintenance. I guess engineer has traveled to many countries, but why are they not learning from the best, but always compare with the best?
I think we'll end it there and get engineer's reaction as we round up.
All right, so let me start with the last, question, talking about why not learn from Namibia and, of course, the other countries. Yes, indeed, we are learning, and but we are also not doing too bad. At the onset of Mr. Mambu's discussion, he told you that a Gambian team was here to learn from us. And a little over a month ago, the Liberian team was here to learn from us. So it means they're also hearing very good things about us. So, but in any case, we are, in a posture of learning, and we'll keep on learning until, we've perfected our roads, our road network in this country.
Okay.
Right.
Quickly, as we round up, you have a few minutes. So.
Okay. So, of course, Hastings, we are considering them. We started some work there, and that's going to be completed. Abacha Street, Eastern Police, of course, we all know the reality there. Right. Road marking, yes, this is a very important point. My brother from the SLRA just stated to you that we have tendered the marking and even the provision of road signs for most of our highways. So by the time we end this period and get into the dries around October, you will see a lot of progress.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Dumbuya, quickly, how will good roads prevent the many accidents you keep recording?
Oh, definitely. Good roads prevent road accidents. Good roads with road markings, the road signs, as you can see the Kailan Road. That's an example. The Gbere Junction to Cambia Road. These are good roads. But the unfortunate thing is people are removing the road signs. That's the unfortunate. And when you remove them, where they say 30 kilometers per hour, the driver may want to go 120. And
meaning we need some more security. Finally, Charles Mambu, how do we address all these challenges in a minute?
I hope we will have more time later.
Yeah, we'll definitely find some more time. Yeah.
But the bigger problem of Sierra Leone roads, and I'm happy one of the actually asked the question, why are we not learning from our, other countries, For the last 20 years, there is no president in Sierra Leone or government officials that have not gone to Rwanda, that have not gone to UK or most of these African countries to actually see what is happening there. The question is, why are we not replicating what we are seeing in this country to here? I tell you, brothers and sisters, one of our major problems is funding. As we are seated here, the Hillside Bypass Road is 18 years under construction. The second phase is yet to be completed. And in fact, when we did our last independent assessment of Hillside Bypass Road, if we are not careful, Hillside Bypass Road will take Sierra Leone the next 5 years before it is completed. And that hangs on financings. The international contractor that is actually doing is not ready to
Charles,
pre-finance.
I'm sorry to cut you there. Like I said earlier, we'll delve into that report properly, not in this program, but of course there would be a discussion with you on that can come in during our news bulletins. That's a very critical issue. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of Wake Up Sierra Leone. We've had the SLRA, SLRSA, and civil society, as you just heard from Charles Mambu. But this is where we'll end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. Our quote for today says, if you are able to stop begging for money. If we can take care of ourselves, then African leaders will have a voice that is forceful and will be listened to. That's a very apt quote this morning from President Julius Maada Bio, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone.
We say thanks to our sponsor, Ukel Commercial Bank, for their support to the program. Continue to stay with AYV throughout the day as we have other exciting programs coming up. Till we meet tomorrow with more interesting topics here on Wake Up Sierra Leone. We have been your presenters. I am Amadou Lamwanapa.
And I am Phoebian Swiel. Have a lovely day. Stay safe. Cheers.
You're watching AYV.